My name is Dave Ferguson. I was born in Denver, Colorado, and I moved to Glendale in the mid-'80s. I'd gone through a divorce because I had just come out at that point, and I was familiar with Glendale because I had had a great aunt who lived to be 103, who had lived in Glendale for many years, and so I had been to Glendale several times to visit with her. When I look back, I think I was probably first aware of that when I was very young and probably 4 or 5 years old. A distant cousin came to visit me, and I have a picture in my house. He was like a basketball player or something, and he came and was throwing hoops with a basketball next to my house. And the next thing I remember was that I was standing next to him for a picture, and my arms were wrapped around his legs. And as I look back at that picture, I realized there was something that was connecting there for me. So that was probably my first connection, but I stayed in the closet for a very long time. During high school, I was well aware of my sexuality, but I came from a very conservative Christian background, and it wasn't okay to be out. And so I went through high school and college with a lot of trying to just figure out how I was going to deal with who I was. I eventually was told that if I met the right girl, that would take care of it. And so I got married, and I became a pastor. And so as a clergyman, that was also a definite no-no. And so I continued with that for the next 15 years. I had a son, and at the end of that period of time, I knew that it just wasn't going to last. My wife decided that it was time to move on with her life, and I thought that was the end of my life because I was going to lose my marriage, I was going to lose my son probably, and I was going to lose my profession. And so it was a very difficult time for me. I began having suicidal ideations, and eventually, after a divorce, I began trying to figure out again who I was, and it was my ex-sister-in-law who finally came to me and said, I've seen how hard you've tried, because I had tried everything. I had done, all kinds of therapies with counselors and psychologists. I had gone to a 6-month program to try and change my orientation, and none of that had worked. And so she said, I've seen how hard you've tried with all these things, and I don't believe it's something that changes. I think it's something you are. And so I credit my ex-sister-in-law for really helping me to come to a point where I accepted who I was. And even after that, it was a number of years before I was really ready to come out to the community. And at that point, I was the executive director of the Glendale Regional Arts Council that rebuilt the Alex Theater, or restored the Alex Theater, and was working with a lot of artists and that sort of thing. I had a great job, and then I decided to join the Gay Men's Chorus of Los Angeles. And when you're on stage with the Gay Men's Chorus of Los Angeles, you're pretty much out. And so that was really when I came out. That was the year I came out. That was 1997. And so I've enjoyed a number of years since then. And the church I go to now is a very accepting church. I work have a lot of responsibilities at that church, and I love being involved with that. With my pastoral background, I thought that my life was ending, but really what was happening was that I was being prepared for a lot of other things that I didn't even know about at the time. And since that time, I've worked for 20 years with a national LGBT group, and tried to help other people come out. And it's just been a great life. And while I thought I would lose my son is now a pastor, and I have 3 wonderful grandchildren, and they're all really accepting people. And my husband and I enjoy a wonderful time with the entire family. Yeah, that was a wonderful outlet. I'm also part of GlendaleOUT, which is another way of being able to express myself. And I sing with a number of different groups besides the Gay Men's Chorus. And in each of those groups, I've been out and been very accepted. And so that part of arts was great. Working with the Glendale Regional Arts Council, I got to work with the Glendale Art Association and other art groups as well. And that was also great in my life. Yeah, my church is the Glendale City Church, Seventh-day Adventist Church, and it is one of the most accepting, inclusive places that I know. And so, you know, I'm very grateful to be able to be part of that community. And GlendaleOUT has been another wonderful resource for the city of Glendale. Through the years, you know, I've met with lots of people that work with the city and work with state government and with federal government. And, you know, I've gotten acquainted with a lot of people through the different contacts that I've had. And as a result of that, I've been very grateful to be able to be accepted with all of those different groups. I've been working with the Seventh-day Adventist Kinship, and I've done a couple of recordings with them. In fact, last year I did an hour's interview talking about conversion therapy. I think one of the places that's great in Glendale is the Alex Theater. It was the place where I came out as a member of the Gay Men's Chorus of Los Angeles, and the Alex Theater also was the host for the Gay Men's Chorus. They were a resident company there for many years. I have had the opportunity to work with other people, not just in Glendale, but who were in the process of coming out from all over the world, actually, because of my work with a national LGBT organization. But I also work with a lot of young students in a music program, and while I don't think it's appropriate many times for me to come out to them because of their age, I believe that, you know, some of them are obviously at some point in their life going to come out because it's just the way statistics are. And hopefully when that happens, they will look back and remember that here was somebody that they did know, and eventually they'll figure out that I was gay, and that hopefully it'll be a positive influence in their life. I think it's been a gradual process. There's still a long ways to go in Glendale because just like racism and other kinds of isms, homophobia has been one of the things that has not been really accepted in Glendale. I still see places, you know, like the police department, the statistics that are coming out through the YWCA research show that there are still people being pulled over just because of orientation and that sort of thing, and that's not acceptable. And I also, last year, was at the Glendale Galleria providing things, and there were high school students who came from an Armenian background who were very rude to all of us. And I know that that also happened on the campus of Glendale High School this year. So there's still a ways to go to help people. One of the greatest challenges I think that is faced by the LGBT community is from the religious community that try and use moral issues to try and do things. While there are moral issues involved, it's much more scientific than that. There are over 1,000 species of animals that all have homosexual relationships, and so it's not just men and women who may be gay or lesbian. Yeah, I still continue to work with religious groups, and I try and find opportunities whenever I can to talk to pastors and other people who are trying to become more understanding. In fact, in another 2 weeks, I'm going to be meeting with a whole group of people in Lexington, Kentucky. And I've been, one of the great things that I've been able to enjoy through my music is that I've been to a total of 28 different countries and enjoyed many of those times I was singing with the Gay Men's Chorus. I was also with some other groups that I was singing with. And so I love seeing other cultures, but it also helps me to appreciate the great diversity that we have in the world, and that we need to embrace that diversity, not try and make it an us versus them. I'm grateful to see, places like the library and the culture commission that are working to make things easier for everybody in Glendale.